The karting track on the edge of town reeked of burnt rubber and stale air. It was late, the sky this ugly, bruised purple, and the neon lights buzzed like they were about to give up. I tugged my denim jacket tighter, my boots crunching gravel as I followed Nick through the creaky chain-link gate. His hand was warm around mine, but his grin had this sharp edge, like he was trying to sell me on something. "It's just my old friends," he said, his voice smooth, almost too smooth. "Closed party, low-key. You'll have a good time." I wasn't buying it. I'd rather be home, curled up with a book or scrolling my phone, not dragged to some exclusive hangout with strangers. But Nick had this way of making me feel like saying no was letting him down. So here I was, my stomach nodding as we stepped into the track's lounge, a dingy room with worn-out leather couches and a bar that looked like it hadn't been wiped down in years. The group was already there, sprawled out like they owned every inch of the place. 6 of them, their laughter cutting through the fuzzy hum of a jukebox playing some old rock song I didn't recognize. When we walked in, they all turned, and the air got heavy. Not mean, exactly, but expectant. Like they'd been waiting for me. "Guys, this is Kayla," Nick said, his arms sliding around my waist. "Too tight. Kayla, meet the crew." Jason stood up first, all lean and sharp, his smile too perfect, like it was practiced. He was older than Nick, maybe mid-30s, with a flannel shirt rolled up to his elbows. His handshake lingered, his grip just a little too firm. "Nick's been talking you up," he said, his voice smooth like honey. "Big expectations." I forced a smile, my skin crawling. "Hope I don't disappoint." The others chimed in. Andre, Chris, some dude with a messy man bun whose name I didn't catch. But Lori was the one who stuck out. The only other woman, she leaned against the bar, her red lipstick popping against her pale skin. She didn't smile, didn't move, just stared at me like I'd crashed her party. Her eyes said, "Get out." Nick steered me to a couch, his hand still on me, and the night kicked off. Drinks appeared. Jason handed me a soda, his fingers brushing mine in a way that felt deliberate. Andre told loud stories, his laugh too big for the room. Lori stayed quiet, her gaze flicking between me and Nick like she was working out some secret math. About an hour in, I noticed Nick was gone. So was Lori. My chest tightened as I scanned the room, trying not to look panicked. Jason caught my eye. "Probably just grabbing some air," he said, sliding closer on the couch. "You good?" "Yeah." I lied, my voice barely there. I clutched my soda, that can slick with condensation. 20 minutes later, they slipped back through a side door. Nick's grin was too wide, Lori's laugh too brittle. They didn't look at each other, but the room felt different, like everyone was holding their breath. Andre sprawled back in his chair, his voice lazy but pointed. "Yo, Nick, you told her yet? Or we still playing the everything's fine game?" The group laughed, but it wasn't funny. My stomach twisted. Nick waved it off, his hand landing on my knee heavy. "He's just messing around. Chill." But I wasn't chilled. Jason's eyes lingered too long. Lori's smirk cut too deep, and Nick's touch felt more like a leash than affection. I wasn't just a guest here. I was something else, something they'd been waiting for, planning for. The jukebox kept groaning, but the music was just noise now. I sat there, my heart hammering, wondering what I'd walked into and how I was going to get out. The car wash's fluorescent lights buzzed like a swarm of angry bees, casting harsh shadows on the wet concrete. It was late, the kind of evening where the air feels heavy with secrets. Nick had called this romantic, dragging me out to the self-serve car wash with a 6-pack of beer, a bag of greasy takeout, and a playlist blaring from his truck speakers. His idea of a date, I guess. I stood there, gripping the pressure washer, the mist soaking my sneakers as I sprayed down his beat-up pickup. Nick was all smiles, singing along to some country song, but I wasn't feeling it. Last night at the karting track still clung to me like damp clothes. "Come on, wild girl," he said, sidling up behind me, his hands on my hips. His breath smelled faintly of beer, and his voice had that playful lilt he used when he wanted me to loosen up. "This is fun, right?" I didn't answer, just kept spraying the truck, the water hissing against the metal. Wild girl. The nickname grated, like he was trying to make me into something I wasn't. His hands lingered, pressing me closer, and I stiffened. It felt performative, like he was putting on a show for an audience I couldn't see. "Relax," he murmured, his lips brushing my ear. I stepped away, pretending I needed to adjust the hose. My skin felt too tight. My thoughts still stuck on that party, Lori's cold stare, Jason's too smooth charm, Andre's cryptic jab. I hadn't slept right since. Nick's phone lit up on the truck's hood, the screen flashing a text. I wasn't trying to snoop, but it was right there, impossible to miss. You were right. She's still clueless. Upside down face, Jay. My stomach lurched. I froze, the hose trembling in my hands. Nick was laughing at something on his own phone, oblivious. I set the hose down, grabbed my phone, and snapped a quick photo of his screen before it locked. My hands shook, but I didn't say a word. Not yet. We finished washing the truck in silence, the music filling the gaps where conversation should have been. Nick didn't notice my mood, or maybe he did and just didn't care. He drove me home, his hand resting on my thigh like nothing was wrong. I stared out the window, the city lights blurring past. That text burned into my brain. Clueless. Was that me? What didn't I know? When I got to my apartment, I locked the door and sank onto the couch, my phone still clutched in my hand. I pulled up the screenshot, staring at it like it could explain itself. Jason, probably. But what was Nick right about? And why was I the one in the dark? Then my phone buzzed. A new Instagram notification. Someone named Lori_XO_88 had followed me. My heart skipped. I clicked the profile, private. No profile pic, barely any posts. But they'd already liked a bunch of my old photos, stuff from years ago, beach trips and coffee shop selfies I'd forgotten about. I knew it was her. Lori. The red lipstick, the icy stare. She was watching me. I tossed my phone onto the couch like it was cursed, my pulse racing. This wasn't just a weird night anymore. It was something else. Something planned, deliberate. Nick's voice echoed in my head, calling me wild, but all I felt was trapped. Like I was a puzzle piece in someone else's game, and I didn't even know the rules. I curled up, staring at the ceiling, the hum of the city outside my window. Sleep wasn't coming tonight. Not with Lori's likes lighting up my phone, not with that text looping in my mind. I wasn't just paranoid. I was being played. The bar was a hole in the wall, no sign, just a black door down an alley that stank of wet pavement and old smoke. Nick pushed me inside, his hand heavy on my back, like he was herding me into some secret club. It was late, my nerves already shot from the Automoica night and Lori's Instagram creep fest, but Nick had sold this as a chill night out. I wanted to stay home, but fighting him felt like losing, so I followed. The place was all shadows and low lights, velvet curtains making it feel like a stage set. I spotted Jason, Lori, Andre, and the others in a corner booth, their smiles too sharp, like they'd been waiting for me. Here's the star, some guy I didn't know said, his tone half teasing, half something else. The group laughed, and my stomach nodded. Nick slid us into the booth, whispering, "Just ignore him. He's all talk." But it didn't feel like talk. It felt like a script I hadn't read. Jason played host, sliding a cocktail my way, dark, with a bitter herbal kick. "Special for you," he said, his eyes locked on mine, too intense. I sipped it, wincing at the taste, like burnt mint. My head felt fuzzy, not drunk, just crowded, like the room was pressing in. "Too strong," I muttered, pushing it away. "Too much for you," Jason teased, leaning closer. Lori smirked from across the table, her stare slicing through me. I felt like a bug under glass. The night dragged, all their inside jokes and coded glances shutting me out. I needed air, so I slipped out to the smoking patio, the cold biting my face. I hadn't smoked in years, but I fiddled with my lighter, needing something to do. The door creaked, and Jason followed, his jacket dark against the brick wall. He didn't light up, just stood too close, his voice low. "You're tense," he said, like he knew me. "What's got you so jumpy?" I stepped back, my pulse spiking. "Just tired," I said, but he didn't buy it. He leaned in, not touching, but close enough that I felt trapped, his breath warm. "You don't have to play shy with us," he said, his tone soft but heavy, like a threat wrapped in velvet. I ducked away, my heart hammering. "I'm not playing anything," I snapped, heading for the door. Nick was there, stepping out, his face calm. I waited for him to call Jason out, to do something. But he just shrugged. "Relax, Kayla," he said, like I was overreacting. He's just being friendly. Don't turn it into drama. Friendly. I choked out, my voice thin. That wasn't friendly. It's nothing, Nick said, his arm around me, guiding me back inside. Jason chuckled, following like it was all a joke. But it wasn't. They were testing me, pushing me, and Nick was letting it happen, telling me my gut was wrong. The patio lights buzzed above, and I felt the walls closing in, their game tightening around me. The old factory was a husk, its shattered windows flashing with rave lights that pulsed like a heartbeat. The bass shook my bones as Nick's truck bumped over the broken pavement. He'd been hyping the secret party all week. Tents, drinks, his friends running the show. After the bar, I wanted to skip it, but bailing felt like admitting they'd gotten to me. So I clutched my backpack, the air thick with smoke and hype, and followed him in. The rave was a mess of bodies and neon, the air heavy with sweat and cheap booze. Nick's crew had a corner staked out, tent set up like a private kingdom. Lori handed me a plastic cup, her smile all edges. "Don't be so stiff," she said, her voice sharp. "Have some fun." I sipped the drink, syrupy, stinging my throat, and stayed near Nick, but he was in his zone, laughing with Andre, ignoring me. I felt like a decoration, dragged here to fill a space. The music was too loud, so I swayed a bit, trying to blend in, but Lori's eyes tracked me, and Jason's lingered too long. Later, we crashed in a tent, me and Nick on a lumpy air mattress. I was dozing, the rave still thumping, when Lori's voice cut through. She was inches away, her breath hot, leaning over me in the dark. "Nick says you're up for anything," she whispered, her words slithering into my ear. "Prove it." I jolted upright, my heart slamming. "Back off," I hissed, shoving her away. She laughed, sharp and cold, slipping out of the tent. Nick didn't move, snoring like nothing happened. I sat there, knees up, her words burning. Nick says, what was he telling them? What did they think I was? Come morning, the rave was fizzling out. Nick woke up, acting normal, pulling me close. "Thought this could shake things up," he said, like it was no big deal. "We're getting stale, you know." I stared at him, my throat tight. "Shake things up how?" I asked, but he just grinned, like I was missing the joke. As we packed, Chris offered to help with my bag, standing too close. "You're too quiet," he said, his voice low, mocking. "Not having fun with us?" His smile was wrong, like he was daring me to react. I stepped back, my skin crawling, but no one else blinked. Lori smirked, Andre looked away, Nick kept packing. The morning light was harsh, the air stale with last night's party. I stood by the truck, feeling like I was sinking. They were rewriting what was okay, calling it fun, and I was letting them. Lori's whisper, Chris's taunt, Nick's shrug, it was all part of their game, and I was losing track of where the lines were supposed to be. Jason's country house smelled like wood smoke and wax, all warm lights and plush rugs that should have felt welcoming but didn't. It was a cold weekend, and Nick had pitched it as a quiet escape with his friends. After the rave, I wanted to stay home. Lori's whisper, Chris's smirk, Nick's lies were still clawing at me. But I told myself this could be normal, so I packed and let Nick drive us out, the city fading into pines. The house was sprawling, with a big fireplace and windows that caught the dusk. The group was there, Jason, Lori, Andre, a couple others, acting almost too friendly, handing me coffee, asking about my week. It felt rehearsed, like they were playing nice for a reason. I smiled, played along, but Lori's glances and Jason's easy charm kept me on edge. That night, we hung out in the hot tub out back, steam rising into the dark. I was in a swimsuit, clutching a towel, trying to relax. Slowly, the others drifted inside, leaving me with Jason. He leaned back, his eyes too sharp, watching me. I started rambling about my brother, a dumb childhood story, just to fill the silence. Jason nodded, then spoke, his voice low. "You're special, Kayla," he said. "Nick knew you'd click with us." I tensed, my fingers gripping the towel. "Click how?" I asked, sharper than I meant. He smiled, unbothered. "Me and Nick, we share everything. Always have, even before you. He's been planning to bring you closer." My breath hitched. "Share? Closer?" I stood, the steam choking me. "I'm done here," I said, climbing out, my legs shaky. His words spun in my head. Nick had never hinted at this. Was this why they all acted so possessive? Later, by the fire, I pulled Nick aside. "What's Jason on about?" I hissed. "This, sharing stuff." Nick rolled his eyes, like I was being silly. "He's just messing with you. Loves to stir the pot. Let it go." But he wouldn't look at me, and that made it worse. The next morning, packing my bag, I found a photo tucked in the pocket. A group selfie from the rave, me in the background, distracted, not noticing the camera. Lori and Jason were front and center, grinning like they'd caught me. My stomach twisted. They were collecting moments, watching me, and I hadn't even seen it. I stood in the bedroom, the photo shaking in my hand. This wasn't just a vibe. They were playing with me, and Nick was either lying or in on it. I didn't trust him anymore, didn't trust myself to know what was real. The house felt too big, too quiet, and I was drowning in their game, unsure if I'd ever known the rules. The karaoke bar was a dive, all sticky floors and dim Christmas lights strung up year-round. I'd come alone, my hand still shaking from finding that Polaroid in my bag at Jason's house. Nick's lies, Lori's games, the way they all watched me, it was too much. I needed out, even just for a night. So I put on my favorite leather jacket, picked a place Nick would never step foot in, and grabbed the mic. Singing felt like defiance, like I could scream my way back to myself. I was halfway through a shaky rendition of an old Paramore song when I noticed him, Eli, leaning against the bar, clapping louder than anyone. He was lanky, with messy curls and a grin that didn't feel like a trap. When I stepped off the stage, he bought me a soda, cracking some dumb joke about my song choice. "Bold move, going for the high notes," he said, his eyes crinkling. "You nailed it." I laughed, actually laughed, for the first time in weeks. We talked, easy, human talk, about music, dumb jobs we'd had, the city's best taco truck. He wasn't like Nick's crowd, all sharp edges and hidden agendas. Eli was just normal. Safe. I didn't plan to tell him anything real, but the words slipped out. Not everything, but enough. The weird parties, the way Nick's friends treated me like a project, the photo that made my skin crawl. He listened, his face hardening. "Kayla," he said, setting his drink down. "You gotta get out. Like yesterday. That's not just weird, it's messed up." His words hit like a punch. I knew he was right, but hearing it out loud made it real. We stayed until the bar closed, and when he walked me to my car, he kissed me. It was soft, hesitant, nothing like Jason's entitled grab or Lori's calculated move. For a moment, I felt like me again, like I could choose something for myself. But when I got home, the high faded fast. My phone buzzed. "Eli, your boyfriend showed up at my place," his text read. "Like, an hour after you left. He was parked outside, just staring. Be careful." My blood ran cold. I hadn't told Nick where I was going. How did he know? I paced my apartment, checking the locks, my mind racing. Had someone followed me? Was Lori still creeping on my socials? I sank onto the couch, my phone trembling in my hands, Eli's warning looping in my head. Then the door clicked open. Nick walked in, calm as anything, his keys jingling. "Good night," he asked, his voice light but his eyes searching. I froze, my mouth dry. "Yeah," I lied, tucking my phone under my thigh. "Just needed some air." He smiled, but it wasn't warm. It was knowing, like he'd caught me in a game I didn't understand. "That's cute," he said, sitting too close. "Your little rebellion? It's all part of it, Kayla. You're just playing your role." My heart pounded, but I couldn't speak. "Role? What role?" His words sank into me, heavy and cold. I'd thought kissing Eli, singing, running to that bar was me taking control. But Nick knew. He always knew. And now I was staring into his eyes, realizing my feelings, my choices, they weren't mine. They were just pieces in whatever sick script he and his friends were writing. The gas station's fluorescent lights buzzed like a bad headache, casting a sickly glow over the pumps. I'd been driving for an hour, my old duffel bag stuffed in the back seat, the city shrinking in my rearview. After the karaoke bar, after Nick's creepy roll comment and Eli's warning, I couldn't stay. I didn't have a plan, just a tank of gas and a need to get out before I lost myself completely. The road was dark, the radio static, and my hands gripped the wheel so tight my knuckles ached. I pulled into the station to fill up, my breath fogging in the cold night air. The place was deserted, just me and the hum of the pumps. I was shoving the nozzle into my tank when a familiar laugh cut through the quiet. My stomach dropped. Lori. She was leaning against a beat-up sedan, a cigarette dangling from her lips, her eyes locked on me like she'd been waiting. "Going somewhere?" she asked, her voice sharp but amused. She flicked Dash onto the pavement, stepping closer. Her red lipstick was smudged, her hair messy, but she looked too comfortable, like this wasn't a coincidence. I froze, the pump clicking in my hand. "Just driving," I said, my voice flat. I didn't owe her an explanation, but my heart was racing. How was she here? Had Nick sent her? Had they been tracking me? Lori tilted her head, studying me. "You're running," she said, not a question. "But you know it's pointless, right? You leave, you'll just find another Nick. Another game. That's who you are now. You let it happen." Her words hit like a slap, but it was the way she said them, calm, certain, that made my skin crawl. "You don't know me," I snapped, yanking the nozzle out. Gasoline dripped onto my shoes, the smell sharp. "Oh, I do," she said, stepping closer, her cigarette glowing. "We all do. We're honest about what we want. You're still pretending you're above it, but you're not. You stayed." I wanted to scream, to tell her she was wrong, but my throat tightened. I'd stayed through the parties, the kisses, the lies. I'd let Nick pull me back every time. Was she right? Was this me now? I climbed into my car, slamming the door, my hands shaking as I gripped the wheel. Lori didn't move, just watched me through the window, her smirk cutting deeper than her words. I could drive away, keep going, find a new city, a new life. But where? And who would I be when I got there? The girl who ran, or the girl who let them win? I stared at the road ahead, then back at the city lights in my mirror. My phone buzzed. Nick probably, or Jason, or some new trap. I didn't check. Instead, I turned the car around, the tires crunching on gravel. Not because I wanted to, but because I didn't know what else to do. I wasn't ready to face them, to call them out, but I wasn't ready to disappear either. As I drove back, Lori's words echoed. "You let it happen." I hated her for saying it, but I hated myself more for wondering if she was right. The city loomed closer, and with every mile, I felt myself slipping further from the person I used to be. The new house gleamed like a showroom, all white walls and hardwood that smelled faintly of polish. Weeks had passed since the gas station, since Lori's taunts and my failed escape. Now I lived here, with Nick and Jason, in this too-perfect space. We moved through it like roommates in a weird sitcom, smiling, chatting, pretending. I went to my bank job, came home, made dinner, nodded at their stories. On the outside, I was fine, functional, part of the routine. But inside, I was unraveling. Every night, I'd lie awake, Nick's snore steady beside me, Jason's footsteps creaking down the hall. My heart would race, waiting for something, a word, a look, that'd break the act. I didn't push back anymore, didn't call out Nick's wild girl nickname or Jason's lingering stares. I didn't question their plans for another crew night with the others. I just went along, my voice quiet, my edges smoothed out. Tonight, the house was still, Nick out on some errand, Jason in the den watching TV. I was in the kitchen, stirring a pot of chili, the spoon scraping the pan like a metronome. My mind drifted. Lori's smirk, that selfie Eli's text. I'd had moments to run, to fight, but I'd stayed. The spoon slipped, and I burned my finger, the sting sharp and real. I stared at the red mark, almost grateful for it. Jason wandered in, grabbing a glass. "You're off tonight," he said, his tone too casual. "Something up?" "Nope," I said, stirring again. He didn't leave, just leaned against the counter, watching me like he was waiting for a slip. I kept cooking, my chest tight, his presence like a weight. Dinner was normal. Nick came back. We ate, talked about nothing. I cleared the plates, smiled when I was supposed to. Later, alone in the bathroom, I brushed my hair, staring into the mirror. My face was polished, clear skin, neat brows, the kind of look that said I had it together. But my eyes were wrong, dull, like they belonged to someone else. I didn't cry or scream. I didn't pack a bag or call Eli. I just turned off the light, slipped into bed, and let the dark take me. Nick would be back soon, Jason down the hall, the routine ready to start again. I wasn't gone in the way people disappear. I was still here, breathing, moving, smiling. But the Kayla I'd been, the one who laughed easy, who dreamed big, she was fading, and I didn't know how to find her.